G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome to some Skyforge. In this video I'm going to give you guys a first look at the questing and combat gameplay in the game, as well as sharing some of my first impressions after about 6 or so hours of gameplay. So this just here is the world overview screen. You can access this from one of the kind of like space station-y zones. The game is a fantasy sci-fi MMORPG, so there's a mixture of kind of like down in the grass fighting fantasy monsters that shoot magic and stuff at you, and then using giant laser guns and things like that. So it's an interesting sort of blend of themes, and the game is quite good looking as well, which you'll see in a moment. But this is sort of like a part of the questing in the game just here. You can select missions from different locations. These change every so often. You can see tactical situation update in the bottom left corner just here, and missions will change then. And you can see that this one currently here has a ×2 bonus and provides one particular progression currency, essentially Sparks of Destruction, which allow you to learn, if we go over to the Final Fantasy X style sphere grid, which is the character progression system, different nodes take different types of resources. These ones take those Sparks of Destruction. So by gaining those Sparks of Destruction, I can progress in the tree. This is what's bottlenecking me at the moment. As you can see, I got plenty of creation and balance, but I need some of those destructions. So that'll be the mission we do in this one just here. So let's jump back into here. And we'll click on this Squad 1, difficulty normal. You can see the estimated time on the left there, and you can see an estimation of the reward, though that can change depending on your performance in the actual mission. So this is an example of the smaller sort of quests in the game, the mission style quests, which these can be done with a small party, or you can essentially do them solo in their instance. There are larger zones that are more typical MMO style questing hubs, where there's a bunch of little quests all over the place, and a lot of kill and fetch quests and stuff like that, though these squad missions and battle missions and stuff like that are usually typically a little bit more interesting. So let's go ahead and jump inside this one here. And I'm going to be playing primarily the gunner class here. You can hotspot between any classes you like in the game that you have unlocked at any time.
We tried to send a distress signal but couldn't. They completely overpowered us.
Okie dokie, so Verd set up a base on Oki Island. Their burrows are all over aliens. Sneak into the heart of the island and eradicate the pests. Alright, so let's continue and jump on in here. So, move around, you know, typical sort of MMO. This is an action MMO, action combat MMO. It features some light tab targeting. You can lock onto enemies. Otherwise, you can aim with the mouse, and that will attack whatever target you're aiming at the time. So we'll be able to see that with the gunner, and that's going to be the class I'm playing here. So let's talk to this quest giver here.
Our squad was scouting the area.
Them jiggle physics.
We expected to find Verd here, but had no idea they'd be carrying out dark rituals. We pushed deeper into the island, and suddenly ghostly hands started to emerge from the ground. They caught us off guard, and Verd used that moment to attack us. They killed most of our squad, and dragged the rest off to their burrows. We had to fall back. Some of our men could have survived. Try to find them, and make those creatures pay.
Okay guys, so keep in mind that this is currently in beta. This is like one of the first closed beta tests for the game here in the West, and there's a lot of localization happening, including voiceovers. A lot of the voiceovers and things like that are placeholders at the moment, the devs have said, and there is obviously some interesting lip syncing happening there, since I think it was created in Russian originally. So the way the gunner works is pretty interesting. I have a weapon that can change forms, and essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off as a machine gun here. I can just unleash an AoE style one there, or I can unleash some single target with the left click. And then, as I do that, I build up heat with my gun. So I can just collect some of these little things here. We've got some progression things and some credits, which is just your basic cash. You can see that purple bar down the bottom there, which is starting to drop off, is the heat in my gun. Now, as I shoot things with this, if I use my flamethrower as well, it builds up heat. If I use my main attack, it builds up heat. If I use my AoE attack, it builds up heat. Now, when my gun becomes overheated, you can see that it's actually slowed down the fire rate, and it's encouraging me to switch to the plasma cannon variant, which allows me to expend that heat that I've stored in my gun to deal more damage with the plasma cannon there. So now I can spend that heat that I've stacked up to just wreck enemies with this plasma cannon. So this is like kind of like a longer range, higher damage, but you can only use it until you run out of heat. So as you can see, I'm just about to run out of heat here. Can't even use my other ability. So now I need to switch back to the machine gun to start building up that heat again. Let's avoid that space hand thing. And go ahead and pick up these guys. So you get this kind of interesting switching between the two weapons that occurs, and there's some other little benefits as well, like killing an enemy with the plasma cannon makes sure that the next plasma cannon shot will be more powerful, so you can sort of chain kills that way. Otherwise, I love unleashing with a machine gun, just using this thing just to cut down massive packs of enemies. It feels quite satisfying. In fact, some of the AoE abilities in this game and the sizes of packs of mobs and sort of how quickly you can cut it down is really satisfying. It satisfies my action RPG roots. So, otherwise, the only other ability I have at the moment besides those ones is a teleporter. I can chuck a teleporter down, I can do some fighting, and then I can teleport at any time within the next 12 seconds or so to that teleporter location. But the ability system is simple to start off with, like most MMOs, but there's a lot of interacting parts with them. There's a lot of combos in the game. Now, this class here is not a heavy combo class. Instead, it has its own sort of unique system with this building up of heat and then the expending of heat. There's also another gun form, the Mortar, which I believe I'll unlock later as I unlock some skills for that. So I'll have a third form of the gun that I can sort of switch into for some longer ranged fire. Now, I'm going to switch to another class to sort of show you guys the combo system as well. I think the Berserker will be a good one to highlight the combo system. As you can see, I can switch to any class I've already unlocked at any time here, as long as this hand thing doesn't interrupt me, which it's going to do. So, let me try again. We'll switch over to the Berserker, which is a melee class, using a two-handed sword, chain sword thing. And this class is a combo class. Now, you'll see that there's a lot less abilities. I haven't played this class as much, so I haven't unlocked as many things. The progression trees for each class are separate, and you unlock abilities through that progression tree. But it also looks like there's a lot less abilities on this class because a lot of them are actually context sensitive based on your current combo. So if I just use my right click, it's just going to use this basic slam attack. However, if I use my left click first and then use the right click, I follow up into like a shoulder bash. And then if I left click twice, then I'll use an AoE swing instead. So there's a whole bunch of different abilities you can unlock by using your right click at different stages of combo. And of course, if you just keep mashing the left click, you're going to stick with sort of like a single target combo as well. Now there is finishing moves just there. With the E ability, once an enemy is low, I can use that to sort of finish them off, cut them in half. Otherwise, I have this chainsword whirlwind ability. Otherwise, I can keep cycling through the combos. So it's a bit left click spammy at times. But when you're playing the actual combo classes, you do really need to pay attention to how many times you've spammed left click. So left click spammy, but you need to pay attention to how you're spamming. So basically, if you just mash the button 4 times, then you're gonna miss your combo. But if you're trying to, like, let's say do the third combo or do the AoE combo, which is on 2 left click and then 1 right click, then you need to pay attention to how many times you're actually pressing that button. Now, I believe this game can be played on a gamepad, and I think that would actually work pretty well for these combo classes. I've found that I prefer the Gunner class, which is a little bit less spammy feeling, and a little bit more strategic, and you can kind of just hold down the button and unleash those abilities. And I'm actually potentially about to die. We'll use a regen orb thing here. Let's try and cut down some of these guys. I'm also doing a bit better with the Gunner class. I'm not quite as good with these combo classes, but I wanted to show this off just to sort of show that there's a good variety in the combat for the different classes. They all sort of play quite differently. So at the moment I have access. Let's move up this way a little bit. So I have unlocked the Paladin, which is a one-handed shield. It's another combo class. I found it to be a little bit spammy as well, but the same idea. You need to focus on the actual combo stage that you're up to. There is the Cryomancer, who is a ranged spellcaster who kites around. He was the worst to play, I found. Because you have to constantly spam left click in order to cast like your basic damaging attack, and that gets a little bit tiring. I mean, I play action RPGs, guys. I'm used to spamming the click button, but when you're getting like really bullet spongy bosses and things like that, and you're spamming left click basically straight for 10 minutes or so, that can be a little bit exhausting. Now it gets better as you unlock other abilities, because you're going to be using those abilities in between spamming that left click. But not all the classes are created equal in terms of how fun they are to play, I've found so far. Alright, let me clear up the rest of these guys here. I think I need to destroy that nest, that's what's going on. Enemies are constantly spawning from here. Let's try and destroy this nest so that they stop doing so. Now, I'm getting pretty low here, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful. Try and use those AoE... Oh, I need to press space to kick in and destroy this thing. Okay, there we go. We were going to be fighting for a long time if I hadn't figured that out. Too focused on the commentary. So I'll switch back to my primary Gunner class after I kill these guys. But I was happy to sort of show off some of the, the variety in the combat. The Berserker is pretty sweet. I do really like the sort of the visceralness of it, if you'll allow me to use a marketing buzzword. When you chainsword those enemies in half, it can be a little bit satisfying. But I'm a fan of the Gunner the most because of the kind of more strategic play that I feel it has. It can kite around, but a lot of its attacks do root it in place. But it's more about sort of like using those different abilities at different times, trying to chain those kill combos with the plasma cannon. It gets a little bit more interesting, I found, but mostly I just found that it's not spammy at all, which I really enjoy. Now, something to sort of like compare the combat for you guys to other games. The combat system is kind of like a blend of, for me, Guild Wars 2 and Neverwinter.
Many of our men. Watch out for the axe.
So we got a mini boss creature just here. So as I was saying, the combat is kind of a blend of Guild Wars 2 and Neverwinter for me. Like the melee attacks and some of the abilities on the ranged characters root you into the place, which not everyone likes. I quite like it because it sort of gives you a real feeling of connectedness to the world, where usually I find that MMOs feel quite floaty. The combat feels quite floaty, like the world is floating underneath you and you're just kind of like running, circle strafing around. You get a bit of that with the ranged classes in this, which sort of reminds me of Guild Wars 2, which had that more floaty action combat style. But the melee classes kind of feel like that Neverwinter combat, where your characters sort of do lock on into place when they attack. And it's not going to be for everyone, but I think it's going to be a bit love or to hate it, but I'm a fan overall of the combat. My only gripe with it really is that it can be a little bit left-click spammy on some of the classes. But if you find a class that I think suits your playstyle, then you're going to be pretty happy with the combat if you enjoy that sort of root-in-place action combat. But it seems like there's a good variety, as I was saying. Like, if you enjoyed the more floaty sort of circle kiting around combat, then you can play some of the range classes, especially the Cryomancer is much more mobile. Or you can, if you enjoy the more rooted in place sort of impactful feeling melee combat, then you can play those melee classes. So it does seem like there is a pretty good variety. Now, something that I've sort of found up to this point is that the mini-bosses are very, very easy up to this point. I mean, most MMOs have very easy progression. I'm going to switch back to my other cannon here. But I'm always like hoping that some of them are going to sort of make the progression gameplay or the progression combat a little bit more engaging. I mean, it's inoffensive. This has been my kind of review of the game up to this point in general, is that the game is mild and inoffensive. It doesn't really do anything wrong, but it doesn't really blow me away with like any of the combat scenarios. There's no like wow moments with some of the initial bosses that you face early in the game. Alrighty guys, just cutting forwards a bit here to the end of the mission. This is a little bit of a longer mission. I just wanted to show you guys the final sort of boss of this one here. He's got a little bit of different mechanics, and maybe starts to show that some of the bosses later on will start to have some more interesting and complicated mechanics. He does just sort of these basic attacks that, as far as I can tell, you can't avoid. Let's try. Can I avoid the scythe? Now, they seem to home, but the most important thing about this fight is that there's these golden and purple hands that head towards the monster. Now, the purple hands will damage you if they hit you, and the golden ones will heal him if they hit him, or they will damage you if they hit... Sorry, the golden ones will heal you, so you can essentially steal the healing hands off of him. Alright, let's switch back over to our main cannon here. So we kind of want to kite and avoid the purple hands, but we want to get in there and get these golden hands before he does, so that we can prevent him from getting that heal, so we can continue to damage him down. And what we can do to sort of help us get to those is whenever I see one of those spawn, which just making sure there's none on the other side of him there. Let's switch back to our cannon here. I can chuck down a teleporter and teleport right on top of it there, so it can sort of allow me to get there very quickly. Sort of a nice advantage of the gunner. The gunner has quite a bit of mobility. Some of its attacks are stationary, like for example the flamethrower, but with that sort of that teleport ability there, you can get quite a bit of mobility to get around and complete those sort of special extra things that you need to do in some boss fights. Oi, get back here. There we go. And obviously that's keeping me healed up, so there's unavoidable damage from the boss, but because there's constant heals throughout the fight, it's pretty easy to sort of sustain through it. Now, bosses have multiple health bars as well. I should lock onto this guy so it's a bit easier to shoot him. So as you can see, he's got four remaining health bars there. It's kind of like a bit of an arbitrary decision to give him, like, this boss has 12 health bars instead of just like one big one, but there is sort of one side effect of the health bars whenever you do deplete a health bar. So we're just about to wear this one down here. Let me burn this guy down. I better get that golden hand. Whenever you do wear down one of those health bars, they do spawn a health globe. So you can see a health globe just popped out there, and you can pick that up to give you a heal throughout the fight. So I imagine on some of the harder bosses, you know, working your way towards those health globes could be a little bit difficult and could be a little bit intense when you have a particularly difficult boss fight. This is speculation, but I hope this is the case, where you have a difficult boss fight and then you sort of just like trying to hang out until that next health globe so you can get a bit of an extra heal. because there's no Holy Trinity in this game. There's no like dedicated healer classes. There are classes that can do some healing, and there are sort of like support hybrid classes like the Lightbinder. But for the most part, like most of the combat is done through like combat mechanics, like for example the golden hands that are spawning, or through, which I'm going to miss this one. Nope, just managed to grab it. Or through health globes that spawn as you damage the enemy. So that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I know some people really like the Holy Trinity, but myself, I don't really find that a problem when games try and remove it if they do it in an interesting way and use the removal of the Trinity to promote some interesting gameplay mechanics. And so far, this is like this is an okay way of going about it, of providing some sort of in-combat healing, you know, some mild healing from other classes combined with some extra bonus sort of mechanics specific to the particular fight or to the particular zone. So that can potentially be pretty interesting. So let's pick up our reward just here. I got myself a it looks like a secondary part of the weapon for the Lightbinder. And how do we do on the missions? I think we did pretty well. It was doubled, so 55 times 2, and then I got a bonus for getting a pretty good rank on it. I got 3 out of 4 stars, and we get our cool little sound effect and quest complete badge and all of that jazz. Looks like I didn't complete the area of effect side quest. I had a bit of trouble getting that with this class. Maybe another class I could have switched to and used that area. Use their area of effect abilities a little bit more easily, because the gun doesn't have like massive AoE skills. So let's grab our reward, and I'll be able to put some of those points into the progression system. Anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about the gameplay, or anything you'd like to see in future videos covering this game, then let me know in the comments below. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.